recent report done showed that outdoor orientation programs do increase retention rate. So I'm going to talk about 3 different research studies that have talked about outdoor orientation programs. And the first is Davis, Berman, and Berman. They researched 40 outdoor orientation programs, and they noticed that they took research from both public and private universities, and they looked at the leaders, they looked at how long the program was, the cost, really all the logistics, and they showed that the goals were the same, even though the recreation choice was maybe different, and it focused on academic retention, psychological growth, and social-oriented goals. So Wolf's and Kay's research was really interesting because they created a program built upon a theory that would reach certain outcomes. And they showed that students who participated in this program had higher levels of commitment to the university, an increased transition to the university, and the personal growth, social, emotional, so things that are really important for students that are first adapting to a new setting. And it was interesting that the researchers asked participants when they were on their trip to journal, however they wanted to. They could write prose, they could draw, they could use poetry, just to describe what their experience was. And they coded several themes, such as becoming real, consequences rather than lectures, love my university, and love my friends. So what great themes to get out of an experience and be able to transfer into the concept that you're going to be spending 4 years at a new location. Becoming real. You're being aware of what your abilities are and what your capabilities are, and you know what you have to do to work towards getting to your goals. Consequences rather than lecture. Like I said before, you have and when you're younger, you sometimes are given more wiggle room to maybe have assignments have their deadline prolonged, or say for example, even when you're a minor, you can get away with certain offenses. But once you're an adult, you have to be accountable for your actions. And as opposed to someone just slapping you on the wrist, there's serious consequences when you're not accountable for your actions. And then the last trait, love my university and love my family and friends. I thought that was really interesting because college is kind of like your family. It's a novel relationship that you can't really explain, like how you explain your relationship with your family. It's not, you don't love them, you don't hate them, they're your family. And college, in my experience, it's something that you don't, how should I say this? It's not something you look forward to, but in the process of going through college, you really appreciate it, and you have that relationship that really helps you develop yourself as an adult. So, finally, Gass et al. Showed that there's long-term effects for participants that go on these outdoor orientation programs. So, back in 2003, he found participants who went on an outdoor orientation program, and 17 years later, they were still able to have vivid recollections of their experience. And they talked about how that experience challenged themselves and other people. They still were able to maintain close relationships with the people that they went on the trip with, and as well, and it shows how it affected their undergraduate experience and their life from that. So it's just really interesting to show how such an experience can really have an impact on the rest of your life. So, Bell, did some research and conducted the first ever census of all outdoor orientation programs. Of the 1,758, he decided that 38 did not meet the criteria of the outdoor orientation program because they did not include one overnight wilderness stay. So they offered things like rock climbing, and then they would go back to the campus, or something where they weren't camping. So he saw that 9% of the outdoor orientation programs are serving more than 17,000 first-year students, and they're led by more than 4,000 student leaders in 2006. So, with all that information, now we have the established information and the results. Now, how do we think about how it can be incorporated into a university? And actually, the Council of Advancement of Standards in Higher Education, they have guidelines that they suggest for orientation programs. And they say that they have to provide effective communication, enhanced self-esteem, leadership development, healthy behaviors, meaningful interpersonal relationships, independence, and the list goes on. And you can see that the terms that I highlighted were directly related to the outcomes that the surveys found. So you can see that these outdoor orientation programs are proving that they meet these expectations, these standards. Excuse me. So the results shows that it's validated, and there's many positive benefits from the outdoor orientation programs, and they provide advantages of social benefit, personal growth, and retention rates. And now how outdoor orientation programs, how do they meet the mission of the University of St. Francis and the standards? Well, as you can see here, the University of St. Francis mission strives for academic excellence in all programs, preparing men and women to contribute to the world through service and leadership. By being able to participate in an outdoor orientation program, they're taking a chance at being a leader. It's shown that going on these trips that they want to extend their service by either being a student leader for the next program or being more committed to the university and extending their time in service in that capacity. So, the next few slides are going to talk about outdoor orientation programs that are still going on in the United States. Princeton University it's the largest in the country, and it saw its largest enrollment in 2001. It's really interesting that the program is housed under the Office of Vice President for Campus Life. It really shows that this program is not going anywhere, and it's well supported by and well represented throughout the university. And the director even has designed manuals for backpacking and presented at conferences, supporting awareness of this beneficial program. Dartmouth College is the oldest operating program. They offer 97% of freshmen participate in outdoor orientation programs. That's huge. That really shows that these students want to go to this program, they're invested in this, and it shows that they know that there's a definite outcome that benefits them. So some of the activities that they offer are backpacking, canoeing, organic farming, cabin camping, so for people who don't like to sleep on the ground, they can definitely have that accounted for you. And also nature photography and writing. Different things. When I think of camping, I think of like roughing it and just backpacking, and for some people that may turn them off. So offering other ideas is making it more accessible to all types of outdoor enthusiasts. And then finally, West Virginia's University Outdoor Orientation Program tailors their outdoor orientation programs to specific majors and colleges. For example, there's a freshman 100 level course where 450 students can go. And then to combat the issue of retention rates, they offer an outdoor reorientation program for students. So it really shows that they're trying to meet what higher education is telling institutions to combat. So they're doing that. And then also a really interesting, a new trend is having programs for veterans for first time in college. So really, this program, in my opinion, is really at the cutting edge of what outdoor orientation programs can really serve for all students. So, one final thought, that they have outdoor orientations have the potential to motivate students to become more engaged in their educational experience during college. And like Sinthrop says, the novelty of the experiential learning environment can lead people to motivate to self-regulate their learning. So when students take that ownership over their education, that's when everything changes, and that's when they're self-directed and they have goals that they want to meet and they feel like they can meet them. So that's, in my opinion, student success. And lastly, I have a quote, study without desire spoils the memory and retains nothing when it takes in. So for me, education has been nothing about just retaining information, but it's all about the experience. And I really think that outdoor orientation programs set students up to really have that connection to education versus as an experience versus just facts to memorize. Thank you.
Any questions for Jane?